welcome to Let's Keep It Real. I'm Allie.
And I'm Tally, and we're excited today to have Daphney on our show. Welcome today, Daphney.
Welcome. I'm so glad to be here with you guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's really great to meet you, and I know we've got a lot of stuff to talk about and really exciting things, I think.
Yeah,
so.
all I ask is that you guys like be fair.
Oh.
Don't derail me or throw me under the bus.
No,
I'm just kidding, really.
We would never. So, Daphney, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am Daphney Poyser. I own a company called Fern Connections, LLC. It is a LGBTQ+ and Ally Focused Matchmaking, date coaching, and relationship coaching company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But I actually work with people all across the country.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I'm extra excited right now. Yeah. We're talking matchmaking. I need to learn something from you. So.
Daphney, how did this whole thing come to fruition?
You know, I was working for corporate America for a very long time, and in 2019, I decided I wanted to leave, so I came up with my exit plan. In December, I was like, you know what, I'm done. So in January, when I went back after holiday, I immediately put in my resignation. I took some time off. And then when we were doing like the lockdown, right? We were doing the lockdown, you know, early when we first found out about COVID, trying to understand it. I started like listening to someone on LinkedIn Live, and this person like brought on some matchmakers, and he used to be a matchmaker himself. And I thought, wow, this sounds cool. I think I can do this. So I reached out to him. He said, go to the Matchmaking Institute. I went to the Matchmaking Institute to become a certified matchmaker. And then I went back to them to become a certified date coach and relationship coach. And that's kind of how it started.
I didn't even know that certified matchmakers.
I know.
I didn't either. I was like, what is the Matchmaking Institute, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, when you get certified, are you just certified in a state, or is that across?
No, it's a global certification.
Wow.
It's like
global matchmaker.
It's like international, yeah. So I work with people all across the country, and then I also work with some folks in Canada.
Okay.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit more how it even works, you know. So if, you know, somebody like myself were to say I'm interested, you know.
Yeah, if you're single.
Yeah, if I happen to be single at the moment.
I heard someone's not single, right?
Kelly is definitely single.
Yeah, so basically what happens is that for me, I do free consultations for people, right? That's where it starts. And then I talk about my process, talk about, you know, I have like these 2 lanes pretty much where you can either come into my database, you know, and I match you with other people. And then I have like these date packages for people who are very serious and want to find someone, you know, for themselves, not just me matching them with other people that are, you know, my serious paying clients, and then me working with other matchmakers across the country, right?
Right.
And so it's fairly simple. It's kind of like, you know, we start... Once you say yes, we start with a personal interview. It's me kind of like digging into all your business.
Oh, wow.
You getting to know me, us getting to know each other. Because it has to be very personal.
Right, right.
You know, I have to know you very well to say, okay, I'm going to find you someone that's right for you. Okay. And one of the things that I do for people is that I guarantee that the first person I bring to you will be pretty much 85% of what you're looking for.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that means that we have to be very intimate with each other. You have to be open and honest.
Sure.
And, you know, no bullshit. I'm sorry if I can't say that. But,
no,
you know.
you can say whatever.
Yes. Thank you. Because that way, you know, I can really help you. Because if you're not honest and open, I can't, you know, I can't really get you what you're looking for, right?
Right.
And so the first time I bring you someone, 85%, we talk about what I did right, what I could improve on, right? But my ultimate goal is to give people 95% compatibility.
Wow.
Because that way, you know, you have somebody you know you can, like, have a relationship with, hopefully. Now, one of the things that I don't do, I don't promise forever. Sure. And if anybody promises,
how could you?
Exactly. Because I'm not part of the relationship, right? So I promise you.
Fuck it up on your own.
Thank you.
She's gonna give you.
Why do you have to point my way
she's
when
gonna
you
put
say
it
that.
on a silver platter for you, but
Yeah.
whether or not you fuck it up is your own problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, why do you look at me when you say that?
Because you're the single one here today.
Oh, okay.
Well, don't forget that I do relationship and date coaching, right? So,
Oh.
just because people are, being matched doesn't mean that they're great with relationships, right? And sometimes people need help, like even getting there. So I help people with dating tips and, how to maneuver in the dating world, right? Even if you're on dating apps, we help people like set up profiles. I coach people on how to message with people, whatever that means, right? Because, I believe that you should find different ways to help you, whatever that is.
Sure.
Don't think that you have to just use a matchmaker. You can use a matchmaker and dating apps, but know what you're doing on these dating apps, right?
Right.
Well, and I think it's funny that you bring up dating apps because I think some people that put their profiles out on the dating apps, they're so just. It's not a realistic portrayal of who they truly are.
Well, they're filtered. A lot of them are filtered.
They're filtered,
too.
but their answers are, what they think other people want to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody needs that. I need you to just be
Filtered,
real from the beginning.
Right.
But that's the thing though. It's like people want to put their best, foot forward or face forward, right? And they, to me, there's just a lot of bullshit that happens, right?
Yeah.
And like, this is where I come in, right? It's because when you're tired of all the bullshit on the dating apps, right? Basically, I can help you to find the right people. I can put the right people in front of you, because people are going to say what you want to hear.
Right.
They're going to, and if they don't, they're going to ghost you in a little bit, right?
Right.
So let's just be honest, right? So you have these conversations with so many people on these dating apps, right? And then it's like, next thing you know, they're gone. And you're like, what the fuck happened here? What did I do? Did I do something wrong? No. They were
most of the time, it's not you.
Yeah, it's not. They're moving on to the next because that's the problem with these dating apps. One of the problems, I think, is that there's too much availability. So it's easy to say, the grass is greener on the other swipe, we like to say, right?
On the other swipe.
On the other swipe, because it's
that.
like there's so many people out there.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's interesting to hear the differences whether you're online, because I'm used to online. I never thought that there was an opportunity to actually have a physical coach. I know I do well with physical coaches in my life. I've been able to progress and things like that, and a lot of times I know where I'm going, and then when I get there, definitely have my opportunities just like anybody else, but I'm also at a point in my life where I feel my most healthiest. So it's, I am very intrigued by this episode itself, just because, any guidance I can get, any coaching I can get to select better, because I'm that serious about the next person in my life.
Yeah. And, you really touched on something very important. Emotional stability, right? Emotional readiness, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times, it's easy, and this is why I do coaching for people. It's easy to find people. It's easy to keep them in your life, right? I mean, it's difficult to keep them in your life. So you find these wonderful people for like a week or two, right?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, stuff starts to blow up, and you're wondering why. And it's like, because people aren't always emotionally ready, right? We all have garbage. We all have baggage, right? But how do you handle that in your next relationship or so, right?
Yeah.
That's what people aren't willing to work on. It's like they just jump, but they never stop to say, maybe I need to like look at myself and see what I'm doing wrong, because it's not always the other person.
Right. I'm going to put it out there because it's my story to tell, but I am currently going through Lent season because of my religion, and I gave up dating, along with a few other things, and it has not been easy.
It's been really long 40 days.
I was going to say, it's kind of like giving up drinking. I don't know why anybody would want to do that either.
I didn't, I didn't realize how much of an addiction it was for me to kind of jump from relationship to
serial
relationship.
dating.
Yeah, and I, God, you said serial dating. That just sounded, that just made me cringe.
But that's what it is, though. It's when, people think, okay, there's this old saying, right? Like, you got to get over someone, you got to get under, whatever the fuck that is, right?
You got to get
but
under someone else.
really, and sometimes people do that shit out of spite. It's like, okay, well, they dumped me, so I'm going to go find somebody else, even better, whatever that means, right? But really, you should take some space, some time,
Yes.
right? To say, I'm ready to move on. Because
Yes.
if you're really looking for someone, you want to be the best you are for the next person, right?
Exactly.
And the way I see it, I don't care if someone dumps me.
Right.
I don't care if they dump me. I tell people all the time, I'm okay when people walk away from me.
Yeah.
I encourage it. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's okay, because what that means is that I can find the right person for me. And that person wasn't the right person. Right? So, but you have to be willing to, acknowledge for yourself, excuse me, that, maybe I need to look at the lessons that I needed to learn from that particular relationship, no matter how short or long it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always something to learn, right?
Right.
And if we do those, self-assessments on a regular basis, then, and be honest with ourselves.
Yep.
It's easy to like say, okay, I can coach you and give you some great advice, but why in the fuck am I not taking my own advice, right?
Right.
And it's easy to do that.
Yeah.
And so I have to, do that for myself, and I encourage that for everybody to say, okay, what didn't work in that last relationship, no matter how short or long it was, right?
Right.
And what can I do? Because you can't fix anybody else,
Right.
but you can fix yourself if you want to.
Well, I think that's where a lot of people kind of get into it, because some people want to fix other people. I don't have time for that. I don't want to fix you. I need you to come as healthy as you possibly can be into my life.
Yeah.
And let's see if we can make it work together.
And then what we need to, really look at are the red flags. So people, when you find some chick who's like really fine as hell,
I really love red flags.
you know what I mean?
We love
It's like,
talking about it.
and you find this chick that's really, fine as hell, right?
Yeah.
And then, you start like letting the red flag slide and
Right.
stuff. It's like, oh, well, we can work on that. Oh, no, we can work on that. No, you cannot work on that shit. You need to let that go. So when you see the red flags in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
You gotta like really think about that shit. Don't just like blow it off just because you found this person who's like, oh, I think they're right for me. And I always tell people this, because this is the difference here. You may find somebody that you have a lot in common with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we both like to bowl. Oh, she likes to read. I like to read. She likes, dogs. I like dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But what about life values?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me, but can this bitch, keep up with her finances?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. She's self-sufficient.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Does she, have a drinking problem? And I'm a drinker, and I'm okay with that. But you have to think about those things that are really important.
Mm-hmm.
She may be cute, but is she toxic?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. For you.
Yeah, and that's what people miss. It's like they just think about the commonalities that they have with people. Oh, we both like to bowl.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to bowl, hell.
And I feel like I'm opposite of that, because I don't really need us to have the same common interests. I need you to respect my interests, and I'm going to respect yours, but I want to make sure that we have the same values going into a relationship as each other. You can be into something completely opposite of me. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
But,
And that's okay. Because you touched on something really important. That as long as the person respects what you do and they support you, right? So they don't have to like go to the gym every day like you do and lift weights. But maybe they come every now and again, right? And maybe they
don't give you shit because you're going to do that.
Right.
Like,
That's
going
exactly
to the gym,
right.
don't give
Like,
a shit
and you're
about
like,
it.
okay, fine. I'll see you when you get back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the support you want, right? Because I don't believe, like, I have a person that I like, and that person, we have nothing in common, hardly. We don't. But we have a lot of the same life values, and that's what connects us. It's not those things that, like, look, I'm not going up into the mountains. I was just in Colorado last weekend. I'm not a mountain person, right? So you don't have to have a lot in common, but you have to have the same life values.
Yeah.
And I think that's a personal preference too, because, doing something like that, I remember going to Hawaii doing an easy little hike up the mountain. It was considered for beginners. And I wish at that time my partner would have experienced what I saw. And it truly was easy. I mean, it was truly for beginners. And after she saw the picture, she was like, I wish I would have. And, that was like a one-time opportunity.
Right.
When we were there, that whole experience, and I just kind of made me look back going, I wish she just were a little bit more open about exploring life a little bit more too.
Yeah.
But I think there's a balance to that. You know, I personally don't ever want somebody who's completely different, but the values are important.
Yeah.
And I do want some of those common interests, because if I'm going to show up to everywhere by myself, should I be single? You know,
Yeah.
like if I'm going to do everything by
exactly.
myself, should I be single? But I'll tell you, these 40 days and 40 nights my friends give me a hard time about, I actually have been talking to women, getting to know them.
I'm really proud of you.
Like,
You know
well,
what?
it's,
But like, I know you.
That's
very well.
exactly what you should be doing.
well,
though.
I was I realize now I wasn't doing it.
Oh, you're
you know,
calling yourself
well,
out.
I mean, hey, I'm
sorry.
still single, so there was a reason. You know, well, I'm intentionally single right now. I guess that's the best way to say it. I'm intentionally single right now because I needed to recognize what my opportunities were.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to call them flaws, because you know, I don't see myself as an overall flaw. I just needed to refine some things. And yes, take a lot more time to get to know people instead of you know
rushing
I was
into
having
rushing
this
in.
conversation with someone, I think 2 days ago, right? About, or maybe it was yesterday, I was interviewing someone and I was having this conversation, and he said the same thing. He was like, you know, my last ex was crazy as hell and we rushed into it, but he was cute and all the things, right?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, what I tell people, and people like cringe at me when I say this, I say date multiple people at the same time.
Oh, I can't do it.
Yeah, so you see what I'm saying? Because what happens is when you date multiple people at the same time,
It's a healthy
you don't rush, right? And you have you can allow yourself to gauge what's working and what's not working. And what happens with a lot of people, and she's like, but what happens with them is that they just move right into this relationship with this person they don't even know, right?
Yeah.
And because you become so attracted and so attached so quickly because you're focusing your attention on this one person.
Yeah.
But if you date multiple people, what happens is that you could just talking to people and then you start comparing them.
Yeah.
Should we compare people?
No.
Hell yeah. The reason why
I think
you should compare them
so.
is because, say for instance, like you said, if I like people who are active.
Right.
So if you're not active, you're not gonna make the cut.
You're gonna make the
right?
cut.
So to your point about going on the hike, it's not
Yeah.
that person has to love hiking, but if they're active, then they'll be more apt to want to do those things, right? So that's what you're looking for.
Right.
But when you start talking to multiple people, right? You're like, oh well, this person over here doesn't like so and so and so, right? But this person over here is very open to this, right? But if you only were talking to that one person, you would let some of that stuff slide.
Yeah.
But when you have multiples, you don't, because you're like, I'm leaning towards this person more because they are more of what I'm looking for versus this person over here.
It makes sense to me. Perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're accustomed to talking to more than one woman at a time. For whatever reason, I can't do that.
But I think you
don't
can,
know
because
why.
I had a person. I'm going to tell you, I've been coaching a person, and this person I've been coaching, right, said the same thing. I can't talk to multiple people, and he came back to me like last week and said, you know what? I took your advice. I'm talking to multiple people.
Yeah.
I'm talking to like 5 people at the same damn time. And what I'm realizing, and then he said to me, not only is he talking to them, he's going on dates with them. And he's realizing basically that, you know, I like this person more than I like this person. And it's not superficial stuff because I'm working with him to, like you said, to get to know people better. You know, let's take out all the physical stuff, right? Get to know these people and see if this is going to work for you. And that's what he's doing. He said, you know what, I never ever would have thought I could have done this, but it's working, right? And yeah, it can work. So I would say
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I had my do not disturb on, everybody. I really did. And it just kept coming through. So thank you, iPhone.
Yeah, but yeah, you think you can't because you never have probably, or you tried it and you were like, I'm gonna say the wrong things to the wrong person. But
So I was on dating apps, and you know, I could talk to multiple women at the same time, you know, through the app or the texting or whatever. And then it's just like, you know, they would all just fall out. And
did they disappear
Yeah.
and ghost, But so it wasn't that you did a process of elimination.
Right. No, it was just like, you're having a conversation with somebody, a couple days goes by, and
so that's different. So say for instance, like me, I love a process of elimination. I also came from technology, so that's just me. But so basically, I just went through a process of elimination. I was talking to like 3 or 4 people over the last few months, and I was like, you know what, this person gives me this person gives me this person gives me this. But in thinking about who I am and what I want in my life long term, I basically said this one person gives me most of what I'm looking for, and the other folks are going to work for me, right? But if I wouldn't have spent the time to get to know them and talk to them, on a regular basis, whatever that looks like, I wouldn't have known that. But if we just focus our attention on one person, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that or you can't do that. I'm just saying that if you're one of those people who latch on very quickly, and then say 2 or 3 months go by, and then all of a sudden you realize it's not working, right? Then maybe if you would have had conversations with other people, you would have found someone who was more compatible.
Right.
And that's just my thought processes, and that's what for all of the people who work with me, right? I say to them, date multiple people, talk to multiple people. That doesn't mean you're having sex with multiple people. That just means you're talking to them and you're taking them on dates, or you're going to do, events and activities with them.
Is the sex part a different conversation or a different coaching session? I just
trying really hard not to look at you when she said that. Kelly,
you don't have to.
Kelly and I have this conversation all the time. We move in very different.
We'll just leave it at that.
Very, very different speeds.
We'll just leave it at that.
That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah,
well, let me just say that there's this thing that I was talking to this person coaching them. They have this thought process where on the 3rd date or the 3rd week they would have sex with someone. Right? Are we going there? So let's go there. So it's like,
why would somebody do that?
Because it's routine. It's like, okay, so it's like I have created a trend for myself that if I'm not like intimate with this person by the 3rd date or the 3rd week, then it's not working. It's like that they're not into me, and that's bullshit. They could be very well into you.
I agree, that is
but
bullshit because
you're moving too quickly.
I don't move that quickly. I think if the chemistry's there and then it's there, then yes, okay, we'll move a little quicker. But me personally, that's not my.
But the thing about chemistry, though, is what people don't get. You may be very well attracted to someone, right? Physically attracted to them. So this is me. So I'll just talk about me because I can do that. So I am a sapiosexual. So basically, I have to be, stimulated intellectually, emotionally, mentally before I'm really physically attracted to you, right? I'm not going to have sex with someone who doesn't give me the emotional, who doesn't give me the intellectual, who doesn't give me the mental, right? And I don't give a fuck how fine you are. If I can't get those things from you, then where are we going? Because at the end of the day, if you think about it this way, when you finish having sex with that person, right, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to do?
I have to say I've kind of learned, that, over my life as well too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely get that. And it's really good to hear your perspective on this because it just kind of validates some things in my head from somebody who is around it, a lot of relationships and hearing what other people do and seeing what's successful out there too. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
But let me just say this. I don't judge and I don't shame. So if you want to hit and quit, do it every day, all day, if that's what you want to do, right? But that's not a relationship. Do what makes you happy. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
I was really struggling with what we're going to call this episode. It's going to be hit it and quit it or something else.
Yeah. So let's talk about why you chose to do this matchmaking company, why you made that decision.
So let's talk about me as a straight woman. So I'm a straight black woman, who is in her mid-50s, and if you didn't know that,
I never would have guessed you
I'm in my mid-50s.
Wow.
So basically, I chose LGBT, and it was like a no-brainer. Max, my daughter, who is openly queer, I have a gay nephew who's open and everything. He came out a couple years ago. But for me, I've always had people in my life that were in the gay community, right? You know, back in the day, we just said we were, you know, people were in the gay community, right? There were lesbians, and then there were bisexuals, and then there were gay men, right? And so now, you know, things have changed where there's more openness about queerness that, you know, people are starting to talk about more and accept, right? And even the word queer, people are, you know, coming back and accepting that word, right? And so basically I chose to do this is because it's just natural for me. It's part of who I've always been since I was a teenager, so it just made sense for me. And then when I got into it, I realized that there was such a huge gap, and it like excited me, but it also broke my heart, because I thought, why in the world would matchmakers not want to focus on this community, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's so many people that don't even know about matchmakers. They don't even know we exist, so.
Well, you know, just even with what you said, how do people feel safe coming to you?
Yeah.
You know, is there a screening that you do to make sure that if you're saying I'm 80%, 85% compatible with someone, that at least I'm safe with them to go out on a date?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So one of the things that we do, we have everyone sign a contract. That contract talks about basically the confidentiality, right, for all of my clients. One of the things that I do a lot is I work with trans people, and so I'm there to help them so that they don't have to, you know, be rejected by people once they share their story. I mean, I want to honor their story and lay the foundations for them, so that way it is safe, so they don't have to worry about, like, especially like on dating apps, where it's like when you meet somebody on a dating app, you're not going to tell them I'm a trans person right away. But maybe, you know, the third date or the fourth date or the second date, you know, you may want to share your story. Well, that person may reject you and may not honor your story just because of who you are, right? So I'm here to lay the foundation for people so that they can be safe. So when I bring you someone, they're going to know about you in a way to where they've already accepted who you are, versus, you know, you having to tiptoe around and say, okay, I'm a trans man, right? And to me, that's the value that I bring to people. So there's a confidentiality piece that everybody signs a contract to say they're not going to misuse the service, right? And one of the things that I don't do is I don't share photos with people. I present, you know, profiles and photos to people back and forth, right? But I never give them to people. And the reason why is because unless they're matchmakers. Now I share with matchmakers, of course, right, across the country, but I don't give them to like other clients. Because I am trying to make it as safe as possible for my clients. And so far, you know, it has worked that way. But like I said, we have them sign a contract, you know, stating that they will adhere to that confidentiality.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that's definitely reassuring. You know, I love the fact that you've got this matchmaking company, which is plus the allies too, you know, so any of our listeners could take advantage of your service. And, you know, obviously you sound like you've got quite a bit of experience even in a short amount of time, you know, to be able to guide people. And because I've already learned quite a few things about Ally, you know, to be honest.
All the things you already knew.
And not only that, I mean, I've been doing this for a while, right? I, you know, just because I got certified last year, I was always like matching people up. I was always giving people, you know, relationship and dating advice, right? So I just thought it was a natural, you know, thing for me. Yeah, natural progression. A natural thing for me to do is to just make it formal, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's one of the values that I add. But I also, you know, I'm very passionate about this, right? When you have someone in your life very close, like my daughter, my nephew, right? It's important to me that they have a space, right, where they can be as normal, you know, and as possible, right? And finding the relationships and the love that they're looking for, right? This is not abnormal. You know, to me, what frustrates the hell out of me is when, matchmakers don't include the LGBTQ plus community, right? That's bullshit to me.
Right.
And I don't know why they wouldn't. And for me as a black woman, in her mid 50s, I don't want to feel secondhand.
Right.
If I'm not a priority to you, then fuck you, right? And so that's how I feel about this community. It's a priority to me, right? It's not something that I do because I'm doing it out of some what I call some hero syndrome, all right? I'm not that person. I'm doing it because I get it. I get the pain that people feel when they're rejected just because of the choices that they make, right? Or the lifestyle. I mean, what I choose to do, and I was having a conversation earlier with someone about open relationships. And I work with people in open relationships too. I work with people of all kinkiness and queerness, right? And to me, it's none of your fucking business what I do in my personal life, right? It's only my business and the people that I pull into my life, right? And so that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. Because we all should be able to have the same type of experiences that other people are having.
So what advice would you give somebody who wants to use your service?
I would say, let them check me out, right? Because, matchmaking is like relationships.
Yeah.
It's a relationship, right? So just because I'm a matchmaker in this space doesn't mean I'm for everybody, right? And I work with, other matchmakers in the space across the country. So there may be someone that's a better fit. I don't know if you're going to find anybody that's a better fit, but there may be somebody who's a better fit, right? So what I do is say to people, check out my website, check me out on Instagram, check me out on Clubhouse, and set up a free consultation and let's talk about it and let's see if it works. Just because people come to me doesn't mean I'm going to work with them. I've had people that I've turned away, right? I've had people a couple of people that I refunded their money, right? Because it has to be a mutual agreement that we're willing to work with each other. Because if people can't be open and honest with me, then I can't help you.
Sure.
And if they can't trust the process and what I do, then I don't have time for that.
Have you ever had a situation where you've got two people and you're like, oh, you guys, these two would be really great together, and then you discover that they're actually exes?
I
love that question.
I haven't done that, but I've heard people say, oh, I know this person from another person. I'm like, yeah, bitch, you have. We're in the same circle, right?
Right.
So in those cases, what happens is that I say to people, let me match you someone a little further away. Let me, so I do long distance and make long distance recommendations for that reason. And I said this to a group of people the other day. If you feel like you've exhausted all the gay men in Dallas Fort Worth and you need something different, then let's talk about long distance relationships. And long distance relationships don't have to mean that they're in Chicago and I'm in Texas. It could mean that they're in Austin Hill. They could be in Houston, right? Or they could be in Oklahoma, but they're only a few hours away, right? But you can build a relationship with people that are not in your, current circle. And that's the thing.
Do you get a lot of that? People are open to long distance relationships?
Yeah, I do.
Because they just don't want the same circle. Get out of the same dating pool.
That's true. It's like, and plus people that are like well known, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're well known and you don't want, you just want something different. I'm matching up a couple this weekend. We're doing a date for them on Sunday. And one of them is in Minnesota and one was in Denver. I have this person who is a trans man who only wanted to date a trans man. And wanted them to be, close to the Midwest. So I finally found someone in Denver, right? And who is considers himself, or they consider themselves a trans male, but also non-binary. And so it's just a great match. The two of them sound so perfect together, right? And so that's when and both of these people are very well known in their communities because they're both activists, they both work with children, they do all these things, right? They have these similarities in that way. And so it's like they don't want the same people, right? In their community. So I matched them up together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the attraction's there too for them. It just happens to have all fallen into place for them, it sounds like.
Well, let me just say, one of the things that I'm doing with this couple is like we're doing a blind date, and the reason why, and it's not because they're both attractive, they're both smart, they have all the things going for them. It's just that that's what we chose to do is a blind date, and I'm okay with that. Sometimes it's a fun thing to do, and I do that sometimes like for fun with the people who are sitting in my database. I just like, okay, let's do some blind dates, right? And I match people up, and my hope is that I'm matching them up with people that they should date, right?
Yeah.
But they may not choose themselves, right? And that's kind of how it goes.
I just, I don't know. I'm about to go into a new week next week and come off of this Lent, this Lent stuff, and my eyes just feel different right now.
So, would you be open to a consultation with?
Well, that we'll be talking afterwards. I mean, definitely,
Okay.
Absolutely. Everything I've been doing at this point hasn't really 100% worked out, obviously, but I feel like I'm gonna do a better job at being able to be more open-minded and understanding. And to your point, it's definitely not all about the looks, and having that intelligent conversation definitely has some value. Recognizing the things that I want long-term really has resonated with me a lot more during these past several weeks. So this process was actually really good for me, and I was so nervous about it, but I'm just at a much healthier place. I wish I would have done this when I was a lot younger, to be honest.
I mean,
I don't know.
I'm the type of person that thinks everything happens for a reason. And, you've gone through certain things in your life, not your life, but the royal you. You go through certain things in your life, and it brings you to where you're at today, so that you can be a better person for the next relationship, for the next person. And Tally, you and I talk about this all the time. We're like the longest relationship.
I love you, man.
So, but and Daphney, I don't know how much you know about Tally and I, but we met, and I was very young. I was 19 years old, and there is an age difference between us, but I looked up to her, and just knowing that Tally 20 years ago I just dated myself, to today, you have been making such healthy choices for yourself. Not just for, your next partner, but for you. And I think that's what's important. I think that's where a lot of people, they go wrong, because they're not trying to be healthy for themselves. They're just, getting ready for the next person.
And that really is important. And I'll just share, because I can always talk about myself. So, I am a widow. I have been a widow for 2 years, right? And I literally decided, okay, I'm not going to be involved with anybody, right? I'm not going to be physically involved with anybody. I went for 2.5 years without having sex with anyone. And I did that for a reason, because I think that you have to be ready, right? There's like this cleansing process for me, right? That has to happen in order for me to say, okay, I'm ready to attach myself to someone else, right? And I'm not saying that's for everybody. I'm just saying that there's a mental piece of that, there's an emotional piece of that, but there's also a physical piece of that. And if we can get past all of the physical attraction, and I can say that for me, I was recently, really physically attracted to some person, right? And it was like, there's a lot of chemistry. We know there's chemistry, but when I decided to take a step back, like, look, I'm not going to talk to this person for like 3 weeks. I realized, this person isn't really giving me the things that are very important to me. So it was kind of easy for me to say, okay, I'm not as physically attracted to you anymore, because when I stepped away from that thought process, it was like, oh, you're not giving me this, you're not giving me this, you're not giving me this, right? And then I'm not saying the person is less attractive, right? What I'm saying is that physical chemistry that was like, so front and center is not there anymore, And if you can take away that piece of it, because this is how I look at it. For me, it's like, you can be visually attracted to someone. That means they look good to you, right? You can be physically attracted to someone, means you want to get busy with them, at some point in time. But you could also be like mentally and intellectually and emotionally attracted to someone, right?
Absolutely.
And so to me, it's I can be visually attracted to you, but never want to, have sex with you, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not emotionally and mentally and intellectually, attracted to you.
Right? Stimulation is real.
Exactly.
I need more stimulation than just your looks.
Exactly. Me too. And or even the physical attraction. If I can't get the other things, then I'm not that interested long term, And if we're talking about long term, those are the things to me you want to think about. If you're just talking about like I need to, and get busy with somebody, right? Because we all have needs. Then that's different. And I can't say I haven't been there either.
I think sex clouds a lot of your judgment, especially in the lesbian community, because once you start having sex, you do feel that closeness, and you've gone to the next level. And I think for me, that's why I'm always moving so slow, because I know that that's how it is with women. And so I really try to pump the brakes. I want to make sure that you're stimulating me in other ways, not just with how you look,
right? Before
I can, take your clothes off.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, that's one thing that I coach.
Sorry, Mom.
No, really. That's one thing that I coach people a lot on, right? Is slowing down, pumping the brakes, right?
Yeah.
Get to know these folks. You know what I mean? If you really want something longer term, just slow it down. I tell people, I really do, like, that I meet people and it's like, I can tell they're getting bored of me, right? And I don't care, if you're not the person for me,
right.
If you can't wait, right? If you can't like respect my boundaries, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just let people walk away. Yeah. I'm really okay with that. And I don't care how good you look. I don't care what you do, whatever. If you can't respect the things that are important to me, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And it's probably why I'm still single. I'm just kidding. But I'm like you. I'm single, by choice. I want to be single. And I'm okay with that because I don't want to go from person to person to person, right? And it's not my intention. I want to find someone who is my forever person.
Right.
And I'm going to wait for that.
Well, and I don't know if that also comes with maturity too, because when I was younger, I might have moved a lot faster between the women, and now that I'm older, I am trying to identify that some brakes need to be turned on and things like that, and so I can make healthier choices for this next part of my life, so to speak, because I am a very family-oriented person at the end of the day. I love kids. I love it all. I love the whole family atmosphere. So it really is important that, somebody has all the right values more than ever. And I'm still attracted to them at the end of the day, but that attraction doesn't weigh so much on looks like it was when I was younger. Like that was the only thing I focused on and didn't take the time to get to know much else. So yeah, I feel so cleansed. I keep saying that, but there was a cleansing that clearly happened, and for those of y'all who have given me a hard time about it, yes.
But let me ask you a question though. Did you during this time did you like jot down the things that you really are interested in? Like, did you say that I know I used to have this long list, and I'm not a list person anymore, but we all have these lists, right?
Oh, yeah.
And these preferences. But did you, think about what it is I want from the next person?
I have thought a ton more about it because I have a lot more time on my hands because I'm not so involved and with someone else. But yes, I'm definitely looking for somebody who has either worked on themselves or is working on themselves, because I think that's just a healthy feature for somebody to carry, to show that they have some self-worth, about themselves. And that piece, I along with a few other things, trust and stability and I call them some basic things of life. We're adults. Yeah. There's some basic pieces of being an adult you should already come to the playing field with. And if you don't, I now recognize the red flags so much faster.
Yeah.
And I'm backpedaling faster than I ever did before. So But yeah, I do, and I try not to write it down because I have lists everywhere in all facets of my life.
Yeah.
But I do have a mental idea of what I'm looking for more than ever. And that's why I said, like there's a sense of clarity that you get from being challenged to sit next to somebody that you're really attracted to and not crossing that line and being only respectful to that person in conversation and the use of the time. And I kind of like that challenge for myself, you know, because I just love to be challenged in general.
So one of the things that we do is that we, when we, you know, sign clients, right, I do the personal interview, and then we send out this long list of like partner qualities, deal breakers, right? Because people don't think about a lot of things, right? And we talk a little bit about during the personal interview, but we do that because there is a long list. I think there's like 15, 20 something items on those lists, right? Mm-hmm. And so it really helps you to say, okay, you know, this is a deal breaker for me. Yeah. And these are the qualities I'm looking for, right?
Right.
And so I would just say that, you may have a list, but go ahead and write it down because, you know, when you and I talk, and I'm sure we're going to talk, right? I'll just put that out in the universe, that you can compare what your list to our partner qualities, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And say, okay, I didn't even think about that, right? Yeah. Because I hear that a lot. It's like, I didn't even think about that. But I would say those things to me are very important, right? And it depends on really what you want. Mm-hmm. I also talk to people about not every relationship has to be forever. Mm-hmm. I'm a true believer of that. And I hear sometimes people say to me, I don't think you're my forever partner. I'm like, how the fuck do you know that? You don't even know me, right? And do we really have to be each other's forever partners? The answer is no, right? So it's like you may find someone that you really like, right? And why not just have a relationship with that person? It may be for 6 months, it may be for a year, it may be 3 years down the road when you're realizing, this may not work for us, right? But why not just enjoy the person at that particular time? Because not every relationship has to be forever. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that it can't be meaningful and it can't be loving. And so that's something I just want, people to think about, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, you can have a great relationship with someone without thinking I'm going to marry this person, I'm going to move them in, whatever that means to you, right? And just enjoy that, because there's no real guarantee that you're going to find somebody forever in any relationship you have.
Right.
So just something to think about that, when you start thinking about what you're looking for, think about what that really means to you.
How long does it usually take for you to match a couple together?
It just depends on, how challenging it is. Like my person who in Minnesota who is a, trans man looking for a trans man, it took me 6 months. Mm-hmm. And he and I had an agreement that once I found a person for him, he would just be okay with that. He would just respect the process, and that's it. But it just depends on how complicated it is. Mm-hmm. And for me, and I'll just be honest with you, I'm one of the probably very few people who do what I do. Yeah. And working with all types of queerness, and I get recommendations and referrals from other matchmakers because they know that I do this, right? Yeah. And so it's not always cut and dry. It's like in the hetero world, people can say, okay, I can match you in 2 weeks. Right. They can guarantee that shit. Mm-hmm. I don't do that. Yeah. Because it's not as cut and dry as putting two straight people together and there's a whole bunch of matchmakers who work in that circle.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I feel like the LGBTQ plus community as a whole is a little more complicated than heterosexual community.
Exactly.
For many, many reasons, mm-hmm. but I can totally, I can understand why.
Yeah, and if you say, matching same sex, which is what a lot of people do, right? And even in the LGBT space, I'm just matching people of same sex. We don't want to get into bisexual, pansexual, transsexual, none of that stuff, right? And people who are hetero, flexible, or open, they don't even touch on that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're just talking same-sex people, right, it is a lot easier than it is to match, because I just did that this week. I matched 2 gay couples, right? Gay men, like this week I found the matches, and it was like, okay, in a couple of days. Right. But when you're talking about adding different layers of queerness, like pansexuality, right? Whatever that is, then it's a little different.
Yeah.
And it's not, it takes a little bit of work.
So I have two questions. Like, how do you define success for you when you match make, and also is there a success rate to that?
You know, this is a question that someone asked me this a couple of days ago on Clubhouse, but for me, success means that I'm matching you at 85-95%, right? Because I don't guarantee long term, but I'm guaranteeing you connections that will, you know, that you get to decide what you want to do with. And so there is no true measurement to say that, oh, if they stay together, you know, or,
right.
you know, is that 2 months? Is that 6 months? Is that 2 years, right? There is no true measurement like that for matchmakers. And what I've heard is in the hetero world, it's like, oh, if they stay together for 2 months, then there's 2 months. I mean, I've been talking to people for 2 months, right? So there is no true measurement like that, right? But for me personally, it's based on the fact that I'm matching you at 95%. When people come back to, or 85% the first time and say to me, and I hear it all the time, they're like, I never thought that you would find this person for me.
Wow.
And when you say 85 to 95%, you're talking about
Compatibility
and all of the profiling stuff.
All the things that you say when I meet with you, and you say, I want this, and this, right? And I come back and with my first goal is to come back at 85%. And I do that most of the time. Yeah. I brought someone to someone last week, and he is a trans man. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, you literally gave me 85% of what I was looking for. Yeah. And I said, of course I did. That's what I'm here for, right? Yeah. Because I have this thing, and I said this to someone yesterday too. And other matchmakers will tell you, give me 51%. I'm like, what in the fuck am I going to do with 51%? I mean, I could go throw a rock and find 50%. Thank you. I can find that on a dating app. Yeah. So my goal is always to be close to 85% when I first match you with someone. When I bring someone to you, I'm giving you 85%. And the reason why I do that is there's a little bit of wiggle room, so that way I can come back and improve and get you to 95% by, you know, doing this feedback loop on, you know, what did I miss? What else do I need to do? So that way, when I give you the 95%, you're pretty much golden, right? But 51%, I can't do anything with that.
Right.
Yeah. So to answer your question about success, if I'm looking at 51%, I mean,
sure.
No.
So you don't feel successful unless you're bringing people back at 85%.
Exactly.
Presenting
that is my goal.
Gotcha.
Do you ever have the case where, like you've matched a couple, and they report back after they're like, yeah, this was great, 85%. Let's try for 95. You set them up again, or is it just like a one and done type of thing?
No, you know, so basically what I do, even for my database, so for database people, you know, I have paid database members, right? Mm-hmm. I guarantee them at least 2 virtual or 1 in person. I think that's how it works. Max is like, no, but I don't guarantee. Like, she's shaking her head because we don't guarantee them, right? But I personally work to bring them at least 2 matches, right? Yeah. Virtually or 1 in person. That's my goal, right? Yeah. Even though in the contract it says we don't guarantee matches for these folks, right? So what happens is that I put them on dates, right? And then I say to my people who are in my database that I'm going to match you as many times as I can. Mm-hmm. That's my goal, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I bring them in, right? So that I can use them to match with other people. Right. But for most of my date packages, what happens is that you're signing up for like 3 dates or 5 dates, whatever that means. Mm-hmm. And so I will match you, 3 times, 5 times, whatever, based on that contract and the time frame, right? Unless you say to me, like I have a client right now, she basically just said, I like the first person you gave me because he's everything that I've been looking for. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I don't need you to look for any more people right now.
That's awesome.
Right? So it just depends. To answer your question, yes, I do. They may come back and say, this was great, but, da-da-da-da-da-da. Right. And I want you to keep looking for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that because that's based on the contract.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, do you have any memorable stories you can share with us?
You know, I want to say that I had this match that I was doing. So one person was here in Texas, one person was in Colorado, and the person in Colorado, in Denver, said, I'm going to be home at so time. So we were doing this date where we were using DoorDash to deliver food into both places. And they were doing like a little, I think it was happy hour or something, right? And so basically, the person in Denver didn't make it home on time.
Oh, no.
So I literally had to call the restaurant in Denver to say, look, don't let this DoorDash person take this food because this person isn't there. And if you take the food, then it's going to just be sitting there. And I don't know what's going to happen to it. And so finally, the person calls me back in Denver like 10 minutes later, says, I'm home now. And I'm like, oh, hell. So now I'm calling back to the restaurant. And the cool thing about DoorDash, which I didn't even know, that if they don't pick up the food, they'll send someone every 15 minutes, right, to get the food, because it's still in order, as long as they don't pick it up, right? And so this is what I learned this from the guy at the restaurant, the manager. He was like, I said, well, don't let him take the first guy. Don't let him take the food. He's like, okay, but they will come back every 15 minutes until they pick up the food. And I was like, thank you. So I called back to the restaurant. I said, okay, so the person who's home now is the DoorDash person there. He said, yeah, he just walked in the door. I said, well, give him the food. It's okay.
Oh, wow.
It was like so crazy. I was like, oh my God, this is what happens, you know, because, and I'm okay with that. It's like, okay, we're coordinating on both ends, right? Sure. You know, these dates, and this is like a virtual date, right? But we still like do what I call these date ideas. We came up with a team that, you know, even for virtual dates, we want you to have an experience. Yeah. You know, anybody can get on a FaceTime and talk to somebody, right? Right. So, like, the date we're doing tomorrow is basically like a dinner date because it's around dinner time. Mm-hmm. And we give people, like, icebreakers, and we, you know, make suggestions on how to make this more of a real-time date, right? And then, you know, something afterwards that's fun. Yeah. And we share these type of experience with all of our clients, right? Even in this virtual space. And then, of course, there's offline dates, right? Right. Sure. We do them in person.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. It's all very interesting. It's
really
cool.
It's really a lot of fun. I tell you, the thing that I love most about my matchmaking is matching people up. Because I literally have to be in the right headspace and feel the right energy, even though it's a process and all this stuff. It's like mentally, I have to be in the right space, right? In the right headspace to be able to do this. But the thing that after that is just doing these dates, right? They're so exciting, and I'm like, damn, I need to do this stuff for myself.
Yeah,
right? But it's so much fun to be able to plan these dates and to, you know, for people to come back to me and say, even in a virtual space, we never even thought about doing anything like this. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this has been really fantastic. We're going to get all your information from you so we can post you out on our website so everybody can go check out.
Yes. Fern Connections.
Fern Connections. I like it. Yeah.
Yes. Very insightful today. Thank you. We could keep going on.
Yeah.
But you've shared a lot with us. I think for our listeners to also have the opportunity to understand more about your service and get the word out, because this was definitely very new to me, and I'm glad we were able to connect to get you on our show. And just like Ally said, you'll be on our sponsor page.
We'll get all the information out there so anybody can reach out to you. And, you know, have a little matchmaker make you a match.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's what I do, and we're advertising all across the country. We're trying to you know, I want to say the premier LGBTQ plus community matchmaker for Texas, right? Mm-hmm. You know, but we work with people all across the country. Yeah. But there are some places like Houston where not a lot of people are doing this, and so why not, right?
Well, and to your point, I'm sure other people are trying to interview you or have already interviewed you as well too. You know, about your business, because you're very unique.
Yeah, and you know, and check us out on. We're getting ready to do an article with Voyage Dallas. We did one last summer. We're getting ready to do another one, and we also did one in February with Dallas Voice, right? So
awesome,
very nice.
That's really great. Well, thanks again, Daphney. We really appreciate it, and
Yeah, everybody listen up because I'm sure we're going to have some updates throughout the
Yes,
season.
I hope so.
Yeah, you're looking at me like we should. So.
Yes, let's
Yeah.
find someone for Tally.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Keep it real, everybody.